Welcome to Moments with Marianne. Allow me to interrupt your train of thought with something that may be one of the most interesting things you hear today. This is Marianne Pastana, and our guest today is Aliénor Salmon, and she's here to share with us her new book, Finding Rhythm, an International Dance Journey. Now, Aliénor is a French-British writer, researcher, and communications consultant. After graduating from King's College in London with a master's degree in war studies, she worked as a field researcher studying issues related to education in Mongolia along the Thailand border, before eventually settling in Bangkok. So let's welcome to the show, Aliénor Salmon.
Thank you, Marianne, for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
What an honor it is to have you here and to talk about this book. So I have to ask you, what inspired you to write this?
So writing my book was actually never part of the initial plan. I had decided to take a year off work to learn how to dance as a total beginner. I was living in Bangkok in Thailand at the time and made this decision to leave a career in the UN that I absolutely loved to pursue this dream that was very much a dream that I always wanted to learn how to dance. And a dear friend of mine said, "You absolutely must write about this experience." She then introduced me to my mentor, Joe Cummings, who wrote, I believe, the first Lonely Planet of Thailand, who told me, "You must write a book about this." And it was incredible because I've always loved writing and I've always loved books. Since I was a child, I started reading very young and would always write, but it had never occurred to me to actually write my own until someone said it to me. And so that's how I ended up where I am today, with Finding Rhythm being published, about this dance journey through the Americas.
So why don't you share with us a little bit about what your life was like before you started to take this first step to dance?
Yes, so I was living in Bangkok in Thailand. I was working at the UN in a job that I absolutely loved, on projects related to education for peace and education for well-being. And more specifically, I was working on a happiness project, which, after researching happiness, made me kind of look into my own happiness and come up with my own happiness project. Even though my life was wonderful as it was, at the same time, the reality is that no matter how much you love your job, we live in a society of over-information where we're constantly working, we're constantly meeting deadlines, we're receiving so many emails, and there's just so much going on. And I was at a point in my life where, despite researching and working on happiness, I was actually quite unhappy. I'd lost 3 loves in the space of 6 months, which I talk about in my book, Finding Rhythm. And I was kind of borderline burnout, which I think so many of us are struggling with today. And the idea of learning to dance came immediately to mind when I thought, how could I liberate my body from my desk? How could I reverse my desk hunch to open my arms and my heart to the world? And I thought, I really would love to learn how to dance.
Well, how beautiful and courageous is that? My goodness, because to allow yourself the space to follow what it is that you love, I mean, that's such an important thing.
It is. And I believe that everyone deserves exactly the same. It is scary. I was absolutely terrified to give up this dream life that I'd built for a new dream that was very risky, actually. I didn't know what would happen afterwards, if I would ever get, work again, or, there are so many fears that hold us back. But actually, what I learned was that each journey takes you on a new path, and in the end, it always works out, there are always lessons. And I think that taking that first step is really the most important. For so many of us have dreams that we don't pursue out of fear. And in the end, I think that we want to look back at our lives and feel that we lived fully. And that was very much the sentiment that I had when I made this decision.
Well, an important decision that is because, how often do we get the opportunity to say, you know what, I'm going to take a year off and follow my heart, and my goodness, that's so courageous of you to do that. When you started on your journey, where did you decide you wanted to start from?
So initially, this whole idea started, it's in the opening scene of my book, actually, in a conversation with a friend. And after deciding, okay, I would learn to dance, she said, but which dance would you learn and where? And so my first answer was, well, I would learn to dance tango in Buenos Aires, because this is probably one of the most common dance trips. And initially, I only was thinking of about 3 months, a short career break. The idea of a year was just too much for me. But of course, as the dream grew, so did the length of this journey. And then I thought, well, actually, I've started taking a few classes in bachata. I'd like to learn that in its country of origin as well, which is Dominican Republic. And then I thought, wow, the Rio Carnival has always been on my bucket list. I have to add that. And if I'm going to Latin America, I have to learn salsa. And so basically the itinerary grew. And talking to friends who were living in Thailand, from Mexico and Colombia, and Cuba as well, they were all asking me, add these countries to your list. What was very important to me was to learn each dance in its country of origin with locals from that destination, so that I could really learn it from its roots, to understand its history, its culture, and how people live and breathe that dance in the most authentic possible way. And so this itinerary ended up drawing a kind of north to south from New York through Mexico, Cuba, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Colombia, Brazil, and Argentina. So all north to south.
That's so exciting to take the trip that way. And when you arrived in New York, did any of your plans kind of change? You're like, well, I'm going to try this other dance too.
Um, I think in the case of New York, my trip happened to coincide with the New York International Salsa Congress. And so there were so many classes that I ended up going to so many of them and dabbling into different styles. I'd say in New York, everything was it was a very short stop. It was the first stop, but it was quite short. And I really wanted to focus on New York salsa. Everything kind of went according to plan in terms of the dancing. What didn't go according to plan is I had this vision of trying to discover the Spanish Harlem of the 1970s that I had read about and learned about through documentaries, only to find that that was the past and that it didn't really exist anymore. Whenever I made calls, I had a lot of trouble getting information or looking for places that could take me back. It was kind of like an impossible treasure hunt, I'd say, in New York.
Yeah, New York can be an impossible treasure hunt for sure. But it's a great city to get lost in, So there's so much excitement there.
Absolutely. And you can really feel the energy of the city. And each destination in my book has a different underlying theme based on how the experience was. And I do think that New York was the perfect place to start this journey, because it's a place that so many people go with their dreams. They go there for reinvention, hope, or feeling lost and just searching for something. So it was just a really great place to start this dream of mine.
Well, we know that, gosh, you're highly gifted at what you do, as far as being able to write this beautiful tale where people can really become immersed in it. And you're this highly educated researcher. When you were going along your journey, was there anything that dance taught you about yourself?
Oh, dance taught me life. I sometimes wonder if there's anything that dance didn't teach me about myself and about life and the world and others. I think that dance is an incredibly powerful tool. And it's not about how well we dance or about trying to be a professional. Not at all. It's about connecting to our bodies in a world where we're too much in our minds and actually identifying, feeling our emotions, and also developing a lot of very important competencies. In my work as a researcher, I would do quite a lot of work on socio-emotional development, and I guess you'd call them socio-emotional skills, for instance, but things such as resilience, perseverance, the amount, you try and do a dance step and it comes out wrong, maybe 10, 100, thousands of times until you finally get it right. I learned from dance that anything is actually possible with effort, with passion, with time. We just need to have the patience to follow through with that. I also learned so much about relationships with others because I learned a lot of partner dances, and dance allowed for a silent language, a silent form of communication with others that required me to develop empathy and tolerance with dance partners of all different abilities. And also many dance partners were patient with me. So that was another element. And then generally, I would say that my confidence levels grew immensely. My posture changed completely. The way that I would carry myself changed. I started to believe in myself and to trust myself. Sometimes we're scared to take the next step. And I love that we can use the language of steps, taking the first step, taking the next step, because it's so relevant to dance, but also to life. Sometimes we're afraid that the next step we'll take will be the wrong one, but actually the most important is just to take that step. And this is something that I keep learning over and over again until today. And the beauty with dance is it's something that you'll never reach a final level. It's something that can continue to teach you new things and surprise you new ways.
It often seems when we make plans, sometimes they go a little bit awry. Did you find that, you had some plans that you made that didn't quite work out the way you thought?
Oh, yes, of course. I mean, I think it's easy to have something beautifully planned on paper. And I had this whole itinerary lined up. For instance, I would say that in most destinations, I arrived and I would just contact a bunch of dance schools. I would explain I would tell my story, and I would hope that I'd get an answer of someone who wanted to work with me or offer me classes and who was genuinely interested in teaching me as a beginner. And it did happen that, for instance, in Dominican Republic, I simply couldn't find a teacher for quite a long time. So I ended up cramming my classes into the latter part of my trip. And what was very interesting is that in a lot of contexts, dance and music are everywhere, but classes may not be there because people learn with their families. They learn through generations. And as an outsider, it's not always easy to find the right place. But in the end, I found the most wonderful teacher in Dominican Republic. So I was very, very pleased with that. But yeah, I mean, things that I think often we have expectations. I imagined myself on a sparkling stage dancing flawlessly. And in the end, it was dancing in a clumsy way, trying to just stand up, to be honest, at some moments. And just keeping going. But in the end, the lesson that I learned is that I didn't need to become a perfect dancer. I didn't have the goal of becoming a professional or doing things flawlessly. The only thing that really mattered was to enjoy it. Because for me, dance is about joy.
As you went along on your journey, were there any people that really influenced your dance?
Oh, everyone. I don't know how I could even pick out just a few. I had very different teachers in each destination. I had some that were very strict and very hard, that required a lot from me, but then I saw incredible results at the end. And then I had others who were more positive and more encouraging. Even if I did something terribly, they'd say, great, wonderful. So I had all sorts of different teaching styles. I'd say there's inspiration really everywhere, because one thing is that the teachers that I worked with, but sometimes it would be looking at other artists whose name maybe I didn't even know and just seeing their own style. I'd have to say, if I had to pick one, and this is really difficult, maybe I'm going to go with two because they come immediately to mind. So first of all, in New York, there is an incredible dancer, one of the most important salsa dancers of all time, known as the Mambo Diva, Grisel Ponce. And I started my journey with her in her signature Diva boot camp, where I learned for 9 hours straight and performed on stage with her. And I had no idea that this was for people were very advanced dancers, and I didn't even know the basics. Somehow I managed to pull it off and do it and perform with her on stage. What I say inspired me so much about her is the amount of expression in her face and in her arms that show her personality. Her personality shines when she dances. She's not just doing a choreography. She's being herself. And I think that the beauty of dance is learning to be yourself and to express yourself authentically. Often we're scared to show ourselves. If you asked a stranger, get up and dance in front of a group, like in the middle of the street, they might find that intimidating and terrifying even. But actually, dance forces you to be vulnerable, extremely vulnerable, and to show who you really are. And what I love with Grisel is that she has this smile and this, you just feel her personality when she dances. The other dancer who inspired me a lot was a tango dancer called Florencia da Luisio in Argentina, who kind of took me under her wing and took me with her to all her different contests and performances. And she had, again, this level of expression, but it was more, I would say, introverted. I think with salsa, you express yourself to the outside. In tango, you take energy and you draw it within yourself and into the ground. And she had this beautiful way of gliding and really provoking so much emotion in the way that she danced. And those are really just two that I'm picking from the top of my head, because there are so many. And the locals as well, watching locals dance in the street in a very natural and spontaneous way, that never ceases to inspire me.
Oh my God, that must have been so much fun being there and being a part of that. And, I want our listeners to realize too, while you're taking all these classes and following your love of dance, that you are not a professional dancer.
No, I was a complete beginner at 30 years old. And I think that there's no age to start something new and to learn.
Yeah, not at all. And I think it's important just to see how you can follow your dreams and just follow your happiness.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people, what's been really incredible since I embarked on my own journey has been hearing from others, either friends or through social media, of people that went on to pursue their own dreams, their own happiness projects. And I love that. I believe everyone deserves it. I think life is for living. And of course, we need to finance our dreams as well. I mean, I want to be realistic about this. It's not something that everyone can do overnight, but it is something that we can plan and dream and make happen. There's always a way to make things happen.
There's so many different places that you could go to learn different types of dance. So it really allows people to kind of maybe explore and go beyond their boundaries. And do you find that dance really connects people as like a common language?
Absolutely. I think if you ask me if there was one lesson from my book and from my journey, it's the importance of human connection. I think that this message is even stronger with the pandemic, that in the end we have each other, and we need to value each other and have true, meaningful connections. And for me, dance was a way to have incredibly meaningful connections with others, because you're sharing your body, your balance, and your breath with another human being, time to the music. You're holding their hands, you're looking into their eyes in a world where more often our hands are wrapped around our smartphones and our eyes are glued to our screens. And I think that it's just so important for us to remember the value of human connection, of how much fulfillment and meaning it brings to us. And this is something that I felt with every dance.
Now, do you offer dance classes? So if people want to get started today, they can do that from their home? Because I know we're just kind of in this strange time of COVID.
Yeah, so I actually started an initiative. I usually offer dance retreats. So I actually take groups of people with me to go and dance. So I did the first one in Cuba in November 2019 with plans to expand in 2020. And unfortunately, that was put on pause because of the pandemic. And then I had the initiative to start an online dance studio and nightclub, and I was hosting happy hours and workshops. So the happy hours were kind of like virtual travel to dance with artists in different destinations and kind of recreate a destination in your own home. So I have one that's called the Havana Happy Hour, Havana Nights, and another one which is called Milonga and Malbec, which is themed around tango. And then I have a series of personal growth workshops, and I'm also going to be launching new things very soon. What I also do on a, how do you call it, based on inquiry, on my website, bailandojourney.com, people can send me a message. I help people who are getting started with learning to dance. I believe that there's a dance for everyone, and there are so many styles out there. Sometimes it can be overwhelming to know where to get started. So this is something that I help people with as well. And I'm hoping to start the retreats again soon and to have some very exciting things coming up as well online.
Well, just having the online portion, I was so impressed with that because there's so much going on there that people can get really connected with you right now and not really wait for, travel to be okay.
Absolutely. And all of these events are recorded. So there's always the option to get the replay and to get in touch with me. I also offer for people who want their own customized and private party for a group of friends. I also organize that sometimes. But yeah, this is a way to immediately connect with dance. And also, I'd say almost sample it, before we're able to travel to these incredible dance destinations again.
So I'm going to ask you something that's going to put you on the hot seat a little bit here. It'd be like probably picking a favorite child, but from all the dances you learn, what are some of the ones that really stand out for you?
Yeah, I get this question a lot. Usually I'm asked to pick one, but I find it very difficult because I really believe that every dance allows us to work on a different facet of ourselves. I would say that my usual simplified response, as I call it, which is at the very end of my book, actually, is salsa caleña, so salsa from Cali, Colombia, which has a lot of knees and kicks, and it's very high energy. That's for my extroverted side. My introverted side loves tango. And if I want something in between, I'd go for forró, which is a Brazilian dance from the northeast of Brazil that has a lot of spins and round movements that remind me of salsa, but also the connection and glide of a tango. And that's really, if I had to narrow it down to my top three, that would be it.
Well, those sound so exciting. And I just loved your book, Finding Rhythm. Where can our listeners connect with you and learn more about your work and be part of your community?
Thank you so much. It's so wonderful to hear this incredible feedback of my book as the messages are coming in. It's really, really meaningful, actually. And I'm so happy to be connecting with the readers. The place where I'm most active is on Instagram. My handle is at Bailando Journey. Readers can also find me on Goodreads under my name, Aliénor Salmon, which is tied. They can find me through the book. And on my website, bailandojourney.com, readers can find out more about my online dance offerings.
What a great place for people to connect and start their dance journey from there. Well, Aliénor, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a lovely conversation.
Well, thank you, Aliénor. It's been such an honor to spend this time with you and to talk about your new book, Finding Rhythm, An International Dance Journey. Finding Rhythm's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and all indie retailers. And if you don't see it on the shelf, ask for them to order it. And remember to support our indie bookstores. Again, if you'd like to connect with Aliénor and learn more about your own dance journey, you can at bailandojourney.com for more information. Before we go, just a reminder, you've been listening to Moments with Marianne, where we make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.